All right. I know that, people are going to be trickling in and out through probably most of the hour, actually. So in the interest of time and to make the most use and best opportunity of having Omar Thomas with us, I do want to jump into things right off of the bat. Prior to introducing even myself or Omar Thomas, I also would like to give a shout out to Becky and Ray Gore, who are our sponsors for not only today, but for this webinar series. I hope that you will also check out Williamson Music first. And Becky and Ray Gore, through a generous donation, have made this possible. And in return, we would love to share the information about their music store, I believe, which is located in Plano, Texas. So it's just wonderful that our neighbors in North Texas are contributing to this, even when the ensemble itself is not allowed to be, sitting next to one another in the concert hall. My name is Jonathan Villela. I am a new and very fortunate addition to the Lone Star Wind Orchestra family, and my main job is to facilitate these wonderful interviews and put this together. And for the man who really needs no introduction at all, this is Omar Thomas. Omar Thomas is it's hard to put into words. I mean, you're a very successful composer. You are a very well-connected, very passionate teacher. Just now experiencing your first year at the University of Texas. Although, I mean, may I ask, have you even set up your office yet?
No, I was in there for all of 3 minutes.
Mask.
6 months ago.
Right. So yeah, everyone, if you would give a nice virtual, hand, snap or whatever we do now to Omar Thomas. And Omar, thank you so much for being here. We're very excited to share this hour with you.
An honor.
So
Thanks for having me.
the first question right off the bat is, how are you? And I ask that with multiple reasons. I mean, Omar is living in Texas now, and Texas is still recoiling from the storm. So, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm better than most, because of where I live, I was able to kind of dodge most of the shared Texas trauma. I'm very close to the Texas state capitol. And I'm close to the University of Texas's medical campus. So we were never on the list for the rolling blackouts. So we never lost power. We never lost heat. The worst we had to do was boil our water for a few days. So I'm sitting with a little bit of survivor's guilt around that. And
Sure.
I've spent the last couple of days just checking in on other people who have been shoveling snow so that they can have water to melt, to boil, to do whatever, to flush their toilet with, or, people who have been displaced and have been staying with family or friends until the power came back to their place so that they could have heat again. So
Right.
it's been an odd 10 days.
And prior to Texas, where have you lived?
Sure. So I've been in the Northeast my entire life, as far north as Boston and as far south as Harrisonburg, Virginia. And before I was here, I'd spent the last 2 years in Baltimore on faculty at Johns Hopkins at the Peabody Conservatory. And then before that, I'd lived in Boston for 12 years. So
Yeah, wonderful. And I will say that probably what you experienced in Texas in the last week is reminiscent of what you probably experienced in Boston, right? In terms of ice.
weather-wise, sure, but in terms of lack of resource and preparedness, no, that's completely unique to this part of the world. So that was a little bit frightening.
Right.
The fact that no one was prepared for this.
Right.
That was weird.
Well, we're glad you're okay. Do you have drinking water now, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right here.
Wonderful. Yeah. Love to see that. So you mentioned Peabody just a little bit ago. So yes, you are a composer. You are a professor at the University of Texas. So tell us again, where were you prior to the University of Texas?
Sure.
And If I may ask, on behalf of the audience, just because I already know this answer and I want them to know the same information as well, how old were you when you became a collegiate professor?
Sure. So I was 23 when I got hired, and I was finishing my master's degree, and I was hired to faculty at Berklee College of Music as an assistant professor of harmony. And I was there for 10 years. I left Berklee as an associate professor full time. And while I was part time, I was also a teaching fellow for the jazz harmony course at Harvard University, and I did that for 4 years. And then once I left Berklee, I was a visiting professor, visiting faculty in music theory at the Peabody Conservatory for 2 years. And now I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. And we're so excited to have you in Texas. I know near the end of this conversation, without really giving the secret away, I don't want to spoil anything because I want you to stay to the end. But we are going to discuss a collaboration that is going to happen between Omar Thomas and the Lone Star Wind Orchestra, and it's so wonderful that we have Omar in the same state now, and I know that collaborative relationship is going to be so wonderful. So we now know how you are, and I'm so glad you're doing fine. I'm so glad that you have water now. Tell us who you are. Tell us, who was the Omar prior to being a college professor at the age of 23? Who were you as a child? Tell us about your family, about your upbringing, about your heritage.
Sure. So I am a first generation American family of immigrants from Guyana, South America, um, and born in Brooklyn, New York. So I'm originally from New York City. I owe my musical life 100% to public school music education. I started playing trombone in fourth grade, and I was in band until I graduated with my master's degree, basically. You know, in middle school there was a jazz ensemble available, so I joined that. And in high school there was orchestra and marching band and choir, and I did all of that. And I was a drum major of the high school marching band, and I got a degree in music education from James Madison University. And I was the drum major of the Marching Royal Dukes for 2 years. And
Very nice.
writing was just something that I did for fun, sheer joy. Started in maybe eighth grade, um, you know, and didn't write what I would call my first serious piece until I was in college, in the top jazz ensemble at James Madison University, and wrote a piece. It was, well, I didn't just sit down to write it. I was asked to do it, and I was terrified because my director was blowing my mind with the incredible music that he was introducing me to, and the idea of writing something alongside that would be programmed alongside those artists was just, I was like, absolutely not, no way. And eventually I relented, and it worked out well.
Right.
And I wrote another piece, and it worked out well. And I ended up going to graduate school for jazz composition at the New England Conservatory in Boston. So that started my 12-year adventure in Boston.
So what was the kind of source of inspiration, or that kind of early idea that was the first thing that you decided, what, I'm gonna try writing something out? And may I ask, this is not a dig at age or anything, was
Sure.
that on paper, or was that in a program, or
Sure, that was on paper, and also
on a scroll?
finale like Allegro 2.0, which couldn't do
Oh
anything. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
useless. But
Yeah.
I could put the notes on the staff. I couldn't even do a multi-measure rest. It was I would like I had to get really artistic and creative about it. But I think that what started that was I used to draw a lot. And before I did music, if I never did music, I swear I would be a comic book artist. That's
Hmm.
probably where my life would have ended up. And so I used to sit there, and I would just kind of visually try to recreate the engraved sheet music that I was playing in band, but with my own ideas. So it's like I wouldn't sit down with the whole score and try to write the whole piece. I would try to write it one part at a time. I would never finish, but that's how it started. And then I got this program called Cakewalk Pro Audio. Um, and I used to reproduce the marching band catalog music by ear. And I did
Wow.
that for years, and I was awful at it because I didn't understand music theory and that, you know, a chord didn't have to be tertially stacked. So I would listen to the bass note and I would put the bass note down and then stack notes in thirds and then just move those around until it felt right, which
Right.
is tedious. And, you know, it was wrong a lot until it started being wrong less. And then it started being right more. And then, you know, by the time I was a senior in high school or a freshman in college, I had arranged a marching band show of John Williams scored a hook by ear. I did the Gavin Greenaway Disney Millennium Celebration by ear. And I was just arranging. My ears had gotten so good based on like years of that really tedious listening that I just learned how to really feel the notes. And then I would sit there in my basement for hours. Just, you know, I had floppy disks because that's when that's the era of time we're dealing with. I had like I don't even know how many tens of floppy disks full of Cakewalk Pro audio files of, you know, pieces that I was writing or arranging.
Wonderful. And and yes, you would then pursue composition. You would study composition um, formally, and you know I think to a number of us in this audience, our first exposure to Omar Thomas was through one of your wind works. You know, one of your pieces for wind band. Do you identify as a wind band composer?
No, I don't.
And explain why.
Well, I don't think tying yourself to one type of ensemble unless you write specifically for one type of ensemble is ideal. You know, I enjoy writing for large ensembles, and even before I started writing wind ensemble, I still have a big band that is my namesake, Omar Thomas Large Ensemble. That's what I did, and that's what I still do to some degree. Um, I work kind of primarily in wind ensemble now because I just have there's a lot of space for me to do good there, good work and relevant work and necessary work, and so that's where I am, but I don't plan on being claimed by any one entity unless it's jazz, because that's where I planted my roots.
That's
So
your home. You're
that's
you're
my
you're
home.
kind
So
of home
everything
base.
that I write, I tell everybody is rooted in Black American and Black diasporic music, for whatever ensemble that is. If I'm writing for an orchestra or wind ensemble or jazz band, that's the foundational sound.
Absolutely. You spoke a little bit about the Omar Thomas Large Ensemble. Can you, everyone just, so you can see this through my eyes. If you don't follow Omar on social media, you should, connect with him on Instagram or Facebook. And I think it was maybe last week, or I don't know, it was recently, Omar, in which you shared something that, it was around this time this year that you and this ensemble were scheduled to be involved in a recording process, I think maybe for an album.
Yes.
And COVID-19 isn't permitting that right now, but that's still such a fascinating ensemble. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that ensemble is?
Sure, it's a 17-piece big band, you know, four trumpets, four trombones, five reeds, piano, bass, drums, and guitar. Sometimes auxiliary percussion, every now and then a vocalist. Um, and it started off as my graduate recital band for NEC. I put this band together to do my recital, and it was such a wildly successful concert that I just thought it would be such a shame for that to be the end, so it wasn't the end. You know? And so when I started on faculty at Berkeley, I would reserve facilities on campus where we could hold concerts. You know, we started off with the smaller venues, but we would sell out that space. So then we went to the main stage and we performed at the Berkeley, the Beantown Jazz Festival, with guest artist Stefan Harris. That was absolutely amazing. And then through my dear friend Terry Lynn Carrington, I just got to work with so many incredible musicians. I got to do work with Diane Reeves and contribute some horn arrangements to her album Beautiful Life, which ended up winning a Grammy that year.
Mhm.
So it was really cool to be able to contribute to that, and and to work on a tribute concert down in DC at the Howard Theater to oh boy, Etta James and Dionne Warwick and Shaka Khan and Valerie Simpson. And, I did all the horn arrangements for this all-female horn ensemble. And Shaka Khan came up on stage and started singing "I'm Every Woman." It was crazy. Like, so that's kind of the whole life that I had before the wind ensemble world knew me. I was doing all of that.
I love that you just said that too, because in a way it's funny, or it's ironic that we, like I said, I mean, we have you here because we're in love with Come Sunday, of our New Day Begun. And we know you through the wind band medium, and it's kind of funny and ironic that for you, in the span of your life, the wind band medium is almost like the most recent addition to your
As a
compositional
composer, sure.
identity. Yeah.
I've been playing in them since I was 7 years old. So in a way, it feels kind of like a homecoming. But I've also been playing in jazz ensembles since I was 10 years old. So
Right.
That's where this marriage of sound, this fusion of sound comes from. It's these are the two arenas that allowed me to grow and to just cultivate my sonic identity in a lot of ways.
Right. So I mean, we've only touched upon the wind band area. We'll get into that next. But before we're kind of leaving these different facets, I do want you to talk about your orchestral explorations, because I think it was just prior to COVID really, gripping and stopping American society. I think I remember you and I chatting about a trip that you had organized, or a relationship that you made in Colorado.
Yeah, so basically, Of Our New Day Begun now exists as an orchestral work.
Congratulations.
Yes, and it was performed in a virtual concert by the Colorado Symphony called "Lift Every Voice," and it was the final piece of that concert. And I had done some pop orchestra things as well, which is really hard. But I had done some arrangements years ago for Diane Reeves and the Colorado Symphony.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's most of the string writing that I've done, actually.
I see.
Yeah.
So one, I need to stop myself, and this is for everyone now. If at any point you have any questions, and we are so excited to field your questions, now is the opportunity to to get the answer directly from Omar Thomas. If you would either put them in the general chat, or if you can find Barry Kinezic, you can send them to him privately. And then at the end, we'll save some time for a kind of a question and answer phase. But you're more than welcome to submit your questions, based on anything that we're talking about, or any questions that you have outside of this that you would like Omar to answer. So, okay, Omar, you're with the Colorado Symphony, and they are, it's from someone who's getting a doctorate in wind band. I always love it when I see a major symphony orchestra take a wind band piece and translate it into their medium, because so often it's the other way around. So awesome, thank you for that. But that, as you said, that piece is Of Our New Day Begun. And before I ask you about how Of Our New Day Begun was not necessarily was given to you, but was kind of pushed to you, I do want to share with everyone, just perhaps you've seen this, but I know it's been a few years, but it's just this incredible footage of such a tragedy that happened, that is related to Of Our New Day Begun.
On June 17th, 2015, like many other Wednesday nights, a group of people gathered for Bible study at Charleston's Mother Emanuel AME Church, one of the largest, oldest Black congregations in the South.
I stayed that night because my friend was leading the Bible study, Myra Thompson, and she asked me to stay. Originally, I said I wasn't going to stay.
Holly Shepard was one of 12 members, part of this devout group who welcomed a stranger into their worship, a young white man who had never attended before. Nearly an hour later, as they closed their eyes in prayer, the man unloaded his gun.
21-year-old Dylan Roof could hear the families, but he could not see them. Bond was set at $1 million on one of the charges.
What is your age? 21.
Dylan Roof stood emotionless as he heard the charges against him. 9 counts of murder for the 3 men and 6 women investigators say he gunned down Wednesday night.
All units responding, 110 Calhoun State.
Active shooter, multiple people down.
New details emerged today about Wednesday's horrific rampage. According to a warrant for his arrest, Roof, seen here on surveillance video, entered Emmanuel AME Church around 8:06 p.m. wearing a fanny pack. After attending a Bible study class for an hour, the court documents say he stood up and pulled out a handgun and began shooting.
Omar, if you would share that incident, that tragedy, and how you you took that and you wrote music to that.
Oh, I wish you were going to show that. It's very triggering.
Yes, but it really is, and you know, in a way, I think it's you know, seeing those events again. I mean, because I remember seeing that live, but it's difficult for me to empathize with you in the sense of, you know, being able to put something like that into an artistic, you know, project, creating any type of response from that. And if you would, before you speak about that, would you speak about John Mackey's involvement within this?
Sure. So I was contacted by Dr. Gary Shallert at Western Kentucky University just a few months after that. And his group was selected to perform at the CBDNA regional conference that year, Southern. And that year it was held in Charleston, South Carolina at the Gilead Center, which is basically across the street from the church. And he said to me that he didn't feel like he could create music in that space without honoring the lives that were lost in that church that's just across the street. And that he had actually gotten my name from John Mackey because he had originally asked John to write the piece. And John said, I will absolutely not write that piece. It's not for me to write. And it was his spouse, Abby, who, you know, John and I used to live very close to each other in Cambridge, Somerville, Massachusetts. And we had developed a great friendship. And he would come to my big band concerts, you know, and so he knew my music and knew my writing. And as did Abby, and she was the one who was like, Omar should write that piece. And so John gave my name to Gary, and Gary contacted me, and I had every intention of saying no, because how do you do something like that? So I listened to him talk very excitedly about what he wanted to do, and him saying that he wanted to invite members of the church to the world premiere of the piece. And you know, I had kind of already made up in my mind that I would say, that's so kind of you to contact me, but I'm not the person to do this. And so I just told him I would think about it. And I called my dad up and told him about it. And he was like, you need to hang up with me and call him back and say yes. And then I hung up with my dad. I called Gary back and I said yes. And oddly enough, that saying yes was the hardest part about writing that piece. What made it so easy to come together was actually knowing that members of the church were going to be in attendance, because that guided exactly how the piece needed to sound. The last thing I would ever want to do is write something completely esoteric or out of left field and say, this is about you, I promise, right? That they need to hear themselves and feel their lives and their experiences in every note of the music. And so I immediately got the idea to use the Black National Anthem as the cornerstone of the piece, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And, you know, a quick, you know, internet reconnaissance mission showed me that there were woefully few symphonic settings of what is one of my favorite songs, a song that I learned from, you know, 2 years old and have been singing my whole life. So I did that. You know, I knew that since we were dealing with an African Methodist Episcopal church, that I would use sounds of the church. So there would be stomping and clapping, singing, tambourine, the blues, all of that was going to be in there. And I knew that I wanted to use Terence Blanchard as an inspiration because of the way that he uses symphonic sounds to speak to Black experiences. I find very inspiring, specifically his soundtrack to the Spike Lee documentary, When the Levees Broke, about Hurricane Katrina and our government's non-reaction to the displacement of, tens of thousands of American citizens. And Terrence Blanchard is actually from New Orleans and, released an album called A Tale of God's Will. And that album is the soundtrack to the Spike Lee documentary. So I just wanted to really tap into that. And specifically regarding the clip that you just showed, that is very troubling. Actually, they didn't go this far in the clip that you showed, but what happened in that moment with the closed circuit television was that each of the families of the people who were murdered forgave this individual one by one. And I kind of had to put my feelings about that aside and just honor the fact that they did that, because I honestly can't speak to what it takes, right? I can't have a judgment about whether or not they should have done that, because my family member wasn't murdered during a worship service. So I don't have any right to tell them or to feel any kind of way about that action. But I knew that I had to write that into the music as well, which ends up near the end of the piece. So that happened. It was premiered. About 25 members of Mother Emanuel Church sat right behind me in the world premiere of it.
Wow.
After it was over, I ran up on the stage and immediately acknowledged them, because that performance wasn't about us. It wasn't about me. It was about them. And I just got to hug them.
May I put you on the spot and maybe share one or two memories that you have in terms of connecting with those members? They're in the audience there, they've made the trip to be there and to see this. Surely you had, dialogue with them. If you would share, to put you on the spot, maybe just one of the sentiments that was shared.
There wasn't a lot of conversation because there wasn't time for conversation, but I did, after the performance, take a picture on the stairs of the hall with a number of the elders of the church mothers, as we say. So that's a picture that I hold dear, and just handshakes and hugs, and them thanking me and me not knowing what they're thanking me for, but
right. Amazing. And thank you for sharing that, and thanks for letting me put you on the spot. Am I correct in thinking that Of Our New Day Begun was that composed in 2015?
Yes, it was 2015, and the premiere was, I want to say, February of 2016. Okay,
so moving from that, in the coming years, you would write A Mother of a Revolution. And was that in 16 or 17?
Oh, that's a good question.
Maybe no, I think that was 19. That was 19. Sorry.
Wait, I have no idea.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit about that, A Mother of a Revolution?
Sure. I was commissioned to write that piece by the Desert Winds Freedom Band, which is an LGBTQ organization out of Desert. That's Nevada. Mm-hmm. Vegas, I think. Desert Winds, that makes sense. And this was for the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, which was in 1969. So this was 2019.
Yes, 2019.
Okay.
Yep.
And I was asked to write a piece about, I think initially Harvey Milk, right? And I love Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk is a tremendously important figure, not just for LGBTQ history, but for American history as well. But also, Harvey Milk has biographies and award-winning movies, and he is always the first name, and he was not the only player in this game of finding LGBTQ liberation, right? Especially if we're talking about Stonewall, we have to talk about the fact that a Black trans woman threw that first brick and catalyzed that riot that is celebrated every year in the form of Pride, which now happens worldwide. That was Marsha Johnson. So I said, I'm going to write a piece about Marsha Johnson, if that's okay with you. Oh, there she goes. And so when I thought about what that was going to sound like, I thought about, and again, like you just said with me 5 minutes ago, I can only sympathize. I can't empathize with what it's like to move through the world as a trans individual. But I can imagine that there is no braver act, brave to a degree that most of us can never imagine, to just exist, honestly and openly, knowing that your mere existence walking down the street could cost you your life just for existing as you are. A level of bravery that we can't fathom. And so I decided to write a superhero theme for Marsha Johnson. And I also wanted to root it in disco to honor the queer club spaces that were sanctuary and that were military base and were, dating centers. And it was just, a community cultural centers, basically. And so what that piece is it's a superhero theme that is also infused with disco, right? And then the other part of the disco tie is that I was thinking about superhero themes from the television era, the initial television era of superhero shows like Wonder Woman and the Hulk, and how all of those themes were music of the time. And at the time it was the 70s, and that was disco. So I thought it made a lot of sense. So a mother of a revolution is a play on words, obviously, as she is the mother of a revolution that kicked off a mother of a revolution.
Yeah, fantastic. And then it was around this same time in 2019 that you wrote "Come Sunday."
Again, the dates.
I think they're close to one another. Perhaps "Come Sunday" came prior. Actually, I'm not totally sure.
I feel like I should know that, but.
Same. And I just want to share one memory before I kind of hand it to you to speak about "Come Sunday." I have two big thoughts. The first one is that Omar Thomas was the 2019 recipient of the Ravelli Composition Prize, which is a huge honor that is bestowed to one individual per year. And because I'm a dork, I know the lineage of the recipients of that same prize. And if you were to major in music, you would take music history, you would take music theory, and in the textbooks that you would buy, you would see all of these other names that were at, in some point in their career, also recipients of the same prize that Omar just won in 2019. And these are individuals that back in the 40s, back in the 60s, back in the 80s, now are known in history to be mass influencers. It was this piece that was written in that year that changed the identity of Wind Band. And to know, that we are on Zoom, we're on a Zoom call with one of them is a huge honor. So that's my first thought, speaking about "Come Sunday." Congratulations, by the way. The second one is when I saw my first experience with "Come Sunday." This was at the University of Texas in Bates Recital Hall. UT Wind Ensemble, UT Wind Ensemble's doing it. And, I, being a grad student there, had seen a lot of performances. And I can safely say that no other music that I had seen an ensemble do made the audience stand up during the performance and run around and run up and down the stairs and put their hands up and scream in the middle of it. But for whatever reason, "Come Sunday," "Come Sunday" did that. So can you speak a little bit about, what is that piece?
That piece is a piece that should have existed long before me, but it didn't. It's the most obvious. It was always been the most obvious piece of music in the world to write, because there is such a long, centuries-old tradition of sacred music played in instrumental ensembles. And an unsurprising dearth of it came from the African-American experience. Well, we will play Bach chorales, and that first movement is Bach and the blues. It's just the most obvious thing in the world to me. And so I finally decided that I was going to write this piece that should have existed for a very long time.
Right.
And that's basically what happened. It's like there's a lot of sacred music in this field, and absolutely none of this from this American cultural tradition and institution. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that in two movements, you know?
Right.
So I thought about the Hammond organ, and I thought about its role in worship services, and I thought about writing a piece that kind of did what the Hammond organ does. And I wanted to do it in a slow and in a fast. So you can get those two juxtaposing identities that are such a core part of a Black worship service. And that's what happens when that music kicks up. You're not supposed to sit still. If you're sitting still, you're probably dead.
Right.
So it's been the joy of my life to be in the audience while this piece is played, and to just see that reaction, and to think, well, yeah, this is what a concert experience should be. You know, concert experiences tend to be very uncomfortable because they are dripped in formality, and they are dripped in ceremony. And if you're new to this environment, it's not very welcoming. And it's hard to explain to people why you wouldn't clap in the middle of a multi-movement piece if you enjoyed the music, or why you wouldn't react in real time to let the musicians know that you are receiving what they're giving you, you know? And so I have lots of thoughts that I can't get into right now for the sake of time about what's wrong with our concert experiences and how exclusive they are and how wooden they are. But we're not going to go there. Let's just say the Come Sunday is not that.
I mean, if we had another, few hours on this call, maybe we could cover it, but we don't, unfortunately. All incredible things. And so I just want to, again, for our audience, if you are if tonight you met Omar Thomas, if tonight that this was the first time you heard his name, I urge you to check out Come Sunday, of Our New Day Begun, A Mother of a Revolution, because one, I mean, that's the pieces that we've talked about, and you've heard some kind of explanation and description of them, but there's so much more out there beyond his wind band contributions, his writings for large ensemble, his jazz writings. One other thing that's out there, and this is rather new, is Sharp 9.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, would you speak about the Sharp 9?
Yeah, that's a melody that came to me way before Rona. This is a summer ago. I was in Barcelona, and I bring staff paper with me everywhere just in case. And I just got this idea for a blues tune, for winds, for classically trained winds. I feel like I have to put that qualifier in there. Again, as somebody who grew up in playing in both jazz ensemble and wind ensemble, and realizing how disparate the experiences were, and not really understanding the full extent of why it had to be like that. Also teaching music education courses at Berklee College of Music, and talking about improvisation and aleatory, and having conversations with students where as soon as you think improvisation, you think about yourself standing at the front of the stage soloing for 9 minutes straight, and that's the most terrifying thing in the world, and that doesn't have to be that. I wanted to create a work that gave young musicians the opportunity to improvise based on a method that I had, I guess, developed working with beginning jazz ensembles at this Berklee 5-week summer program for like 5 years. They give me a group of whatever students for 5 weeks, and at the end of 5 weeks we had to put on a concert. And my group was usually like a level 2 jazz ensemble on a scale of 1 to 4, so it's not like they had just put their instrument together yesterday, but they were still very much developing. And so just trying to figure out how to get them comfortable talking in the language of blues, I decided to use what I'd learned there and to put that in this piece, Sharp 9. So then coronavirus happened, and when I had originally heard the piece, I had heard it for large ensemble, because why wouldn't I? And then the world changed, and we couldn't be in the same space together with more than like 5 people. And our field had this really come to Jesus moment of like, how do we survive this? How do we keep making music? And so these flex pieces were born of that, with the idea that you can play this piece and have it sound in some kind of way complete, regardless of the instrumentation that you're dealing with. So this was a great opportunity to write this piece, Sharp 9, for a smaller ensemble, and to give all of these instruments that you traditionally find in a classical setting, in a classical ensemble, the opportunity to improvise on basic blues. and to play all the juicy jazz harmonies that made me fall in love with jazz that you never really get to hear in wind ensemble. And so it's just a short blues, kind of in a New Orleans style, named after one of my favorite harmonic tensions because I'm a giant nerd. And you know, and I hope that it's a vehicle to get young musicians' eyes off the page and to get them to be able to make the music that's inside of them rather than always reading music off the page and interpreting what somebody else wrote.
I don't mean to allow any type of question cutting, but Chris Kim just asked a very pertinent question. Can you tell us what grade level Sharp 9 is?
Yeah, I think it's like a 1.5 or 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's designed for young musicians. It's designed for young musicians, but also I feel like older musicians can play it and have a really good time too. And it's also designed to be played at a wide range of tempi. You know, so it grooves at a slower tempo, or you can kick it off in a higher tempo and then just like kind of like be off to the races with it.
Right. I love that. And I mean, you mentioned this already, but it's that flex adaptation, you know, that band directors, that all music programs need right now in this kind of virtual setting. Now, I want to at least kind of put a pause on these conversations that you and I are having. I want to go to Barry Knezik now. And Barry, can you tell us, can you go ahead and field a question for us?
Absolutely. Getting a lot of really good questions. I'm going to try to combine a few if that's possible, just for time's sake. This first one comes from a Lone Star musician, and they asked, since several composers are known to push musicians to the brink of physical limitations, like a Maslanka or a Mackey, even on his Wine Dark Sea, how do you know when you've reached that ceiling of physical or technical exhaustion in a musician and a part? How do you know that you've reached that ceiling and you've pushed far enough to challenge, but not too far?
I mean, so the proper answer to that is that you learn ranges and you learn that people need to breathe, and you learn about, oh, I probably shouldn't have the trumpet above the staff for 3 minutes without, like, you learn those things, right? But then there's also that other side of the coin where it's like, this is what the music calls for. So we just have to find ways to kind of finagle that, right? So it's this question is so funny to me because I think about this every time I sit down to write, especially when I'm saddled with a grade level that's like 4. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this will be a 4. And then the music's like, but this thing really needs to happen here. And I'm like, I don't know if that can qualify as a 4. And so I just do a lot of lying to myself and hoping for the best. But yeah, I mean, we know, right? We know it's possible, but we also know what the music calls for. And then we also take into account that there have been composers who have come along who have always kind of pushed the boundaries of technical facility, right? Like Ron Nelson, when he wrote Rocky Point Holiday, he went out of his way to be like, I'm gonna write you something really hard. It's gonna be really hard for everybody. And now, like, you know, you get these great high schools that can play Rocky Point Holiday because, like, he's opened that door and the bar has been raised. And, you know, so maybe I just like to think that maybe I'm raising the bar too. I don't know.
No, we're just glad you had that. You think about that from a percussionist standpoint. So thanks for even thinking.
Sure.
The next question comes from a professor at the University of Texas Tyler Saxophone Studio. And he wanted to ask Omar to briefly speak about his experience at the Peabody Institute of Music.
If I can speak about my experiences at Peabody?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, the chair of my department was Joel Puckett. And Joel Puckett is a wizard, right? He is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. What he knows about orchestration is just terrifying to me in its amazingness. And I actually audited his wind band orchestration class, and that was really fun. So I was there in the music theory department, but I was also co-teaching a class called Music for Dance, because that was the first year of Peabody's dance program. And we had designed the class, by we, I mean myself and Dana Bella, who is the chair of the dance department there, and I absolutely love and adore Dana. Like, she is good people. And the point of that course was to give dancers the language. Well, one, to give dancers the language to communicate with musicians, right? To tear down the barriers between those collaborations, and also to make them more aware of the music that they listen to, so that they can make more informed decisions about how they move to it. So that was great. Loved living in downtown Baltimore. I was close to my family. I was teaching more traditional theory there, which, wasn't my favorite thing in the world to do. But I learned, I reawoken so much that I had not thought about since I was a student. And I will tell you this, I was writing the first movement, or I was writing Come Sunday, specifically the first movement, while I was teaching Theory 2. And teaching Theory 2 at the time that I was writing that helped tremendously. Like, everything, because like I said, it's basically Bach and the blues, right? So sitting there with all of this kind of the more chromatic side of 4-part writing, and then actually working on a piece that was doing that was like spot on timing. But yeah, I think that Peabody is, they're not, I know that they're actively working to just kind of revolutionize and to open, their doors and open their curriculums and just try new things. So it was really fun to be there for the 2 years I was there.
Awesome. Great. Next question comes from Becky Gore, who is one of the co-owners of Williamson Music First Company. She's also board trustee for Lone Star Wind Orchestra. And Becky asked a question. She said, what does Omar do to ignite your creativity when you run through a dry spell in your composing career? What do you do to fire that spark, to really get excited about picking up your pen and writing some more?
In the old world, I would buy a plane ticket and go somewhere. Back when such a thing was possible. What's really inspiring to me? My students, my composition students. When I sit there and I start to feel real sorry for myself, like I've hit a wall, and then every week they're coming with new material and it's great, and I'm like, okay, get it together, and then also just listening, listening to stuff that's really inspiring, and trying to emulate what it is that is sparking joy in me in listening in my own music. But I get this from one of my heroes, Maria Schneider. She's like, if you don't have anything to write about, go live a life so you have something to write about. Go take a walk, go hang out with friends, go watch a movie, go to a museum, go for a hike and take in experiences, be with your thoughts, and allow your well to fill up that way.
All those good self-care things we need to remember,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, and right. that we shouldn't compromise on.
And all the lessons in resiliency, the neuroscience behind resiliency, it's been proven if you help others, you're helping yourself and others.
Correct.
So, like you said earlier, get out of yourself, and by helping others, you might find yourself, right?
Sure, that's absolutely right.
Well, and I think that ties into a question from Bill Novak. Bill wanted to know more about your role in the University of Texas doctoral composition program, and any advice you could give to people that are interested in applying to that program.
Sure. I mean, so kind of a weird question, only because this is such an odd year. This is my first year at UT, and like I said, I've been in my office for all of 3 minutes. Everything I'm doing is virtually. I'm learning about being at UT without actually being at UT. So everything that I've experienced so far, which has been at the same time a tremendous amount and also scratched the surface, all of that could very well change. A process that I might think goes one way might actually go a completely different way when Zoom is not involved. You know what I'm saying? So my involvement, I guess the most direct involvement that I have with doctoral students is that, if they want to study with me for a semester or two, they can do that. What's really awesome about the composition studio at UT is that we encourage our students to study with all of us so that they can get different perspectives on what it is that they're doing. So that's my direct involvement, you know, other than being, of course, a part of the selection committee. And I guess after seeing what that's like for the first time, even though, again, it only looked like this because of Zoom. I don't know what this is like when we're not on Zoom. But what we look for at UT is how you can add to the community. We look for individuality and a perspective, especially at the doctoral level. Like, you kind of have to know who you are. You kind of have to know what kind of dent you want to make in the field with the work that you do, you know. And we just kind of look for a wide range of styles and personalities that all of our community can benefit from. Us as well, the faculty as well. You know, so we're not looking for carbon copies. We're not looking for cookie cutters. We're looking for people who are very much themselves and who know how they want to show up artistically, and who are also very forthcoming and very giving and very supportive of who will be very supportive of the community, because community is first here, and that's what I love about that.
Awesome. I've combined a couple of questions from our board members because we've got two really overlapping questions that are asking the same thing. As you know, our mission for Lone Star Wind Orchestra is music changing lives.
Mm-hmm.
And Avilio Villarreal and Todd Watson asked, does Omar think there's a singular event or a singular person that kind of happened for the reasons to start you on your composition journey? You know, nothing happens by accident. You know, there's always a reason for something you may not understand at the time. Was there an event or a person that really was the catalyst for starting your journey as a composer?
An important moment that I remember is being a freshman in college and playing in a pit orchestra at the University of Virginia, and driving Route 66 east over the Appalachian Mountains out of the Shenandoah Valley to get to UVA, and sitting in the back of a car, 5 of us in the car, and I was in the middle. Very vivid memory, apparently. And my friend Christopher was driving, who is now a band director in Virginia, and he put on a Maria Schneider CD, and he put on a piece called Hang Gliding. And that was a moment that changed my life. It was like my life before hang gliding and my life after hang gliding, because that piece, I just never thought that big band music could be that, could sound like that. It was so authentic and idiosyncratic and colorful, and just not what you would think big band is, and melodic and just heart bursting. And that piece and her music, Maria Schneider, gave me permission to show up in a way that's authentic, just by being herself. And so that's a big part of my mission of living authentically, is that, you know, people are looking at you and looking for permission to show up in a way that's authentic. So maybe by playing a piece like Come Sunday, they can say, I didn't even know that this was possible in this arena. Maybe now I can write this music from my perspective, or whoever I am, and maybe there is space for that. So yeah, that's the answer to that question.
Barry, is now a good time to speak about the upcoming collaboration?
Absolutely.
So everyone, I think I have this. Yes, this is a link that you should check out shortly after this. But this is a link to a description, and there are videos there that speak about the St. Philip's Percussion Ensemble, which is an incredible musical initiative and relationship of the Lone Star Wind Orchestra. And the exciting thing now is, particularly pertaining to this call, is that in the coming years, there will be a collaboration between Omar Thomas, between Lone Star Wind Orchestra, and between the St. Philip's Percussion Ensemble. So whether I ask maybe Barry to speak a little bit about that, or maybe Omar to touch a little bit upon that, I will say on behalf of Omar, because I know his schedule and workload, that you know, don't ask him to hear the piece because it's not done yet. But Barry, would you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. Omar's kind of new to the party, so I won't throw him under the bus. But yeah, again, people that don't know me, I'm the first in my family to go to college. I went on a music scholarship, and it kind of changed my life. And we completely believe in reaching communities that don't have access to opportunities and kind of helping change the world around us by our music. So we've been going to the South Dallas St. Philip's School and Community Center for over 10 years now. Bought all the marimbas, send instructors in there twice a week to do after-school programs, to do a summer camp there every year. And it's just wonderful to see the growth of these children. I mean, you've got third, fourth, and fifth graders that are playing circles around kids in junior highs at other programs, because these kids are really getting exquisite percussion, instruction and ensemble and individual instruction. So we thought it'd be really cool to have these students be featured in a piece with the Lone Star Youth Winds, to let these percussionists get staged at the Eisman Center or the Meyerson, someplace they don't normally get to show up, and play some really great stuff with the Youth Winds in the background as well, and collaborate with them for a piece. And we thought nobody better but Omar Thomas to kind of bring that creativity to life and make something really special for the community there. So we're looking forward to that, hopefully in May of 2022. That's the tentative time, but life happens and things happen, so there's no firm deadline. But Omar, we're really excited that you're even considering helping us with that. It's going to be something we're all really going to be proud of, and I think come away feeling very inspired and really cool about it. So thank you for that.
And and speaking of feeling inspired, I know we we kind of have to wrap up our time here. But again, I just want to iterate my but also this organization's gratitude to you, Omar Thomas, for taking an hour out of your busy time, out of your busy schedule to be with us. And I mean, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with you, hearing more about, the way of how you approach music, or, who you are, or how you think about things. I always learn from you. It's wonderful. And I hope that everyone here gained a similar thing. Now, before we sign off for the night, again, I do want to thank the Gores and Williamson Music First for again sponsoring this. And I think Becky, I know Becky is in the call, so Becky, thank you so much. And also a reminder that this Lone Star Conversations is by no means just an isolated interview, but rather this will be a series. Our next interviewee, our next guest is going to be Ian Weinberger. If you haven't heard Ian's name, you certainly have heard of Hamilton. And I mean, like, not the Hamilton that, roams through the country or, sets up in Springfield, Illinois, but this is the Hamilton on Broadway. We are having Ian Weinberger, who is the director of that musical and also the principal conductor. And he will be joining us at the next one. That is March 16th. So please set that in your calendars and look for this, excuse me, the T. Look for the Zoom link. And that will be at the same time, 5:30 to 6:30 Central. So thank you so much. Omar, another big thank you to you. Thank you so much for a wonderful hour. And everyone, take care, stay safe.
Thank you all.